On a previous trip through North Dakota, I'd stopped at the Badlands Dinosaur Museum and really enjoyed it. On this trip, I was super excited to share that experience with my daughter, and we had the extra benefit of having a personalized tour from Destiny Wolf, who's a volunteer and board member there, and a friend from the North Dakota Tesla Owners Group. This is my full interview with Destiny, where we talk about the Dinosaur Museum. She answers a lot of my dino and fossil questions I've had since I was 7. And then we talk about the EV chargers they have installed in the parking lot, how they complement the museum, and the benefit the city is starting to see from public charging. Before we jump in, I want to apologize for a lack of B-roll in this video. I had the best intentions, but a time crunch, cranky child, and a lost camera all conspired against me. To supplement, I've added some images from the museum's website. And on the flip side, I wouldn't necessarily want to show you every aspect of the museum because it's definitely worth a visit on your own if you're in the area. And the exhibits are changing all the time. But enough of me, let's get to Destiny's introduction.
Hi, my name is Destiny Wolf. I am a volunteer fossil preparator and board member here at the Dickinson Museum Center and the Badlands Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson, North Dakota.
You guys have a great display here. Where do these pieces come from, and what are some of the key functions you guys provide?
Yeah, so we actually have two different collections here at our museum. We have the historic collection, which was collected way back when, many years ago, by the museum founders, the Leagues, who unfortunately Larry League has passed away just in this past year. And we have the new collection, which is everything in the past 5 or so years that Dr. Denver Fowler, our museum paleontologist and curator, has found. And that's a lot of what we're also working on here in the lab these days.
Do a lot of the fossils that end up here come from your digs? Are they being shipped from other places? Or where do these fossils come from?
So the cheapest and easiest way for us to get new fossils to put on display is for us to actually go out and dig them up ourselves. So with a budget of usually only a couple $1,000s a year, we run a camp of about 15 to 20 people that go out every summer for about 2 to 3 months and dig up new fossils. To then come back here in the lab, we can clean them up under a better controlled environment, and then we are able to research them, write papers on them, and then eventually put them on display for everybody to enjoy.
And when you find these, are you looking in people's backyards or where, how do you even know where to look?
So here at the museum, we actually have a really good working relationship with the Bureau of Land Management in Montana. And Bureau of Land Management manages public lands. Here at the Dickinson Museum Center, we really believe in supporting those public land digs. And doing so makes sure that everything is permitted, everything goes through the legal check marks and the hoops that we need to go through to legally dig up and collect these fossils. On the other hand, once we bring them back, we're also a federal repository, and we're actually really proud of that status. And what that means is that everything that we collect here at the museum stays in a public trust. So what that means is that you as a visitor, you own every single fossil in here just as much as we do. And we take this very seriously in terms of making sure that these fossils stay in the public realm, that we're able to do science and research on them and learn from them, rather than them disappearing into a private collection. It also means that if something were to ever happen to the Badlands Dinosaur Museum, all of our fossils would then automatically go to another federal repository, and those fossils should be protected for their entire life.
And then are you looking for specific rock formations, or are you just kind of walking down trails and seeing something stick out of somewhere? Or how does the discovery process?
Yeah, so discovery is really interesting. A lot of the people here at our museum have backgrounds in geology and paleontology, and so it's actually two-pronged. So we look in certain formations. So those formations that we primarily dig in would be the Judith River Formation along with the Hell Creek Formation. And so when you're thinking of those formations, you're actually thinking of a lot of the really cool dinosaurs that most people typically think of, like Tyrannosaurs and Triceratops. And so when we're out looking, we're looking in those rock formations. We also use Google Earth because if technology is there, we're going to use it to its full advantage. We look for the outcrops, and then we go what we call prospecting. And prospecting is basically walking up and down the entirety of the exposed rock in the Badlands, really rough and rugged terrain, and we're looking for changes in those patterns of rocks. So typically you have those nice uniform striations, and we're just looking for something just a little bit off, and that clues us in that there may be something there.
And so we're actually in the lab where you do your work. And so once those fossils get transported back here, then what's the next process before they go on display?
Right, so once we get fossils back here, there's a few things that have to happen. And one of those things is we will either bring things back in Ziploc bags if they're smaller specimens, or what we call field jackets, which are big plaster encasements of fossils to protect them for their transport. Once they're back here, we kind of go through things, decide what's more important, what's not so important, believe it or not. Some fossils aren't as important as others. We open up those field jackets, and then we take our time, and we use some things like acetone, sometimes just water and a toothbrush, and reversible glues. So when we talk about glues that we use here, we do use reversible things in case research ever needs to be done on those specimens in the future. And as we get them cleaned up, sometimes we find out really cool things about those fossils. I always say that these specimens tell us a story. Some have bite marks, some have claw marks. Some of our guys even have abscess teeth. So we can imagine, how bad we feel with a toothache. I wouldn't imagine how angry that must make a tyrannosaur with an abscess tooth. So they tell us some really interesting stories. But once we get things cleaned up here, then it can be handed over to our researchers here, Dr. Denver and Liz Fowler, and they're able to write papers, they're able to name new species, and just this year alone, we have had at least one new species, and we may have a couple more in the works.
One thing I love about this place is there's something for every age group. There's some really deep stuff, and then there's some stuff for kids to get their heads around. So what's the thought process that goes into that as you're creating the displays and stuff to make it friendly for every range of interest?
Yeah, so we really try and be a buffet experience, if you will, in a lot of ways. So a big part of our mission here at the museum is public service and what can we give back. And we do that in a couple ways. We do that through education and outreach in terms of having school groups come in from the area. We also do it, thanks to COVID, in a lot of ways, through a lot of Zoom interactions with classrooms. And we've had classrooms as far away as Seattle and actually over into the UK who have tuned in to us, and we've come in after hours to obviously take care of those UK classroom groups, but to be able to give them a taste of paleontology and a taste of science and inquiry in what we do here. As far as our museum display goes, we really try and make sure that there is something for every single age group and every single interest as much as possible. We know that blended families are coming in here, multi-generational families are coming in to visit our museum. And so we want to make sure that we sort of have a little bit of something for everyone. We're really happy that our interactive displays are back. So whether that's our microscope or our interactive geological sandbox where people can make floods and rivers and landslides and have all that sort of interaction, we really try and think about everybody when we think about how to create our gallery. And our gallery really has evolved over the last 5 years thanks to the work of Dr. Fowler here. I'm just proud to be an assistant in trying to help him bring those things to life for our community and people who travel through.
I'm sure there's a lot of permanent elements to it, but it seems like the kind of place that is changing. So if you've been here before, to me it seems like worth stopping in every pass through just to see what's new.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that gets people back and builds a membership, is not having a static gallery. You go to a lot of museums and everything is exactly the same. We're really lucky here in that we're always constantly every summer bringing back something new. So every time you come through, we hope there's something new on our desktop that you can ask us about here in the lab, or a new nugget of information. If you see us walking through a gallery, ask us a question and say, hey, I'm wondering if you can tell me more about this specimen, or where this was found, or how this was dug up. We love those types of questions when we go through, and we really want people to have an interactive experience and to see something new and learn something new with every pass through our building.
As you're touring the museum, you can actually see right into the lab and you guys working here. Do you feel like fish in a fishbowl, or are you excited that people are checking that out?
Yeah, in the paleontology world, we actually call the setup of our lab a fishbowl lab. So we certainly do feel like fishbowl, fish at times. There are times that we don't even notice the visitors because we're concentrating so hard on what we're doing. And other times we're waiting for something to dry. So we'll actually open up those windows, discuss what's on our table, and have that interaction with the public. That is part of what we do as our job here.
Yeah, it's very cool and very neat to see up close. I mean, you can get right up to next to these windows and really not look over your shoulder, but look right into your workspace and see what's going on. So that's fantastic. Well, the museum is fascinating, so thank you very much for this behind-the-scenes look and the tour. But you have something else that's really cool in the parking lot, and that is a couple EV charging stations. So let's go outside and check those out.
Perfect, let's go.
Out in the parking lot here, you guys have 2 level 2 chargers, and I'm just curious, did you put those in, or did you lobby to have them installed, and does anybody use them?
Yeah, so great question. So the idea of the chargers, contrary to popular belief, actually wasn't my idea. It was actually the idea of our paleontologist curator, Dr. Denver Fowler, who's here at our museum full time. And Denver wanted to attract a new, different kind of crowd. He knew that electric cars are the way that things are moving. And what better way than to have people be able to park, charge for a couple hours, and have a reason to stay and not be rushed through the museum on their travels through.
Sure, I suppose it works both ways. You get some charge, but you also know I have the time to enjoy the museum.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how long have these been installed?
So my husband and I actually donated the charger itself. The install itself was actually very generously donated by the Lignite Coal Council here in North Dakota that's based out of Bismarck. And so we actually...
Seems ironic, but...
Hey, we got to sell coal to somebody, right?
Yep.
And so we still do get a percentage of our generated power here in North Dakota from coal. Thankfully, as you know, that's decreasing every year for the environment's sake. But yeah, they were generous enough to pay for the install.
Cool.
So the chargers have been up here for just over a year, and we thought it was really important because as much as Tesla has come through Dickinson and put in chargers across the I-94 corridor, we still didn't have any generics for people that wanted to travel through. And even our CVB office was getting to the point where they were fielding calls on where can I charge my Leaf coming through town? And the answer was, we don't know.
Yeah, now this is a perfect answer. And you also have a couple other facilities here. It's not just the Dinosaur Museum, although that's the coolest part. What are some of the other things that are right around this area within walking distance?
Yeah, so people typically come to the museum center. The big draw is our dinosaurs. We're a big research facility, and we're actually a federal repository, and we're quite proud of that status. So here at the museum center, we also have a history side collections. We also have the Pioneer Machinery building that's housed and serviced thanks to the Stark County Historical Society. Our Convention and Visitors Bureau is right in the same parking lot, so if people want to find out what to do here in Dickinson or where to go eat, that's right within walking distance of the parking lot. Across the way, we do have some fast food services, so we have a McDonald's that's really convenient to here. We have a couple hotels within walking distance, especially since none of our hotels here offer charging services, we have gladly, through the city of Dickinson, we've gotten an agreement to be able to leave these chargers on 24/7, and thankfully we haven't had anybody abuse that. So
Awesome. And how often do they get used? Do you have any sense of, are people using them every day, or is it pretty infrequent?
it's pretty infrequent. We are listed on PlugShare. We have had some check-ins. Sometimes I'll even stop here if I'm coming in from Bismarck, and stopping here to work at the museum on my way home. And if I'm low on charge, I'll plug in for a few minutes occasionally. But yeah, we are actually seeing some traffic out of Illinois, yourself from Minnesota, and every tourist season, I think as we're seeing more and more EVs travel the interstate, we're making sure that word gets out, that we're here and we're free to use, and it's a really cool place to visit while you're here.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Tesla's got the supercharger here, and that's great, but it's also not, there's not a lot of sightseeing around. There's the stuff at the mall area, but nothing like this where you can enjoy yourself for a while. And I know with our Model Y charging so fast, we can hardly get a restroom break in before it's time to go.
Right.
So this is a perfect, you know, take it easy, enjoy yourself, and get a charge. And it works for every other EV.
Absolutely. And we did it as partly a supplement to the Tesla owners. So as people are traveling through, we have billboards advertising that we exist here, and it's great as an add-on to keep people in town for a little bit longer. It's interesting because Dickinson here on the western part of the state really has an oil-based economy for a lot of it. And so we didn't want to go to the city commission and ask for money for this project. So it was really important to us that we had it all privately funded. We could go to the city commission and say, hey, can we put this in on city property? And it's interesting because the city since has seen some of the potential in potentially installing more chargers in the downtown area to attract tourists to come and spend their money locally here in Dickinson for our businesses. And for the cost of a couple dollars of a charge, it's a different mindset than filling a tank of gas for $20 or $40 or $60 or $80 these days. To, you know, basically comp somebody $1.50 or $2 for a charge to get them to spend $20 or $30 or $40 in your town is a great bargain.
Yeah, definitely. Getting those out-of-town dollars here for a little bit investment is a great idea.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed seeing the museum and getting a free charge while we were here, while we're on our trip. So Thank you very much.
All right, no problem. Fossils, not fossil fuels.
I can't thank Destiny enough for sharing her time and expertise with us that day. It was really an amazing tour, and I can't wait to visit the Dinosaur Museum again the next time we're in Dickinson. If you'd like to visit, I've got a link in the description for the museum, and there you can, explore and plan your visit a little bit there. And also, if you want to find information on how to volunteer in the museum or even in the field, that information's on the website. And of course, ways you can donate and support the museum and their efforts. I really love the work they're doing and trying to preserve the past, while at the same time in the parking lot assisting in making a better future. One last thing I'd really like to thank Destiny for is a very special gift that she gave to my daughter Joan. Plaster casts of two gigantic dino teeth. One is 2.5 inches long and the other is terrifying at almost 4.5 inches. The casts are so cool and so detailed that they're going to stay in a shadow box until Joan's a bit older, and I'm more confident that they won't end up broken or in her mouth. So thank you for these amazing replicas. They're fascinating and we just love looking at them. And thank you for watching. If you want to catch up on more of our Model Y mountain adventure, feel free to check out the last couple videos and subscribe so you don't miss the next few episodes where we're going to have a lot more adventures in the mountains. Thanks again, have a great day, and remember, fossils, not fossil fuels.